Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Well, former President Goodluck Jonathan has called on President Muhammadu Buhari to initiate a revisit of the recommendations of the 2014 National Confab report. Now, the former president had convened that Confab a few months before the 2015 general election, but showed no inclination towards acting on it, a point which still rankles with those who were opposed to it from the very beginning. However, there has been a persistent clamor in some quarters for the Buhari administration to take a second look at it. But opposition to its implementation has not gone away either. To help throw more light on this is Dr Ndu Nwokolo, an expert on state and peace building, conflict resolution, natural resource conflict and post-conflict reconstruction, who has now joined us from Arise Studios in Abuja. Many thanks for joining us and welcome to the morning show.
Yeah, good morning, Adeso and Emmanuel.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, some have described the 2014 National Confab as perhaps the first major opportunity for creating a workable framework for a national order. But there seems to be, dissenting voice to it. I mean, years down the line, it's not been implemented, it's not been taken a look at. Why do you think that this is so?
First, let's agree that it's neither here nor there. There's no silver bullet to solving Nigerian national issue. The issue remains that we have an elite class. By elite class, I mean the political class, the military class, the traditional rulers, the religious institutions. We have a set of elite class that have decided not to salvage the country, not to work together. This is not the first time we had a national conference. From 1922, when we had the fourth constitution, up to 1957, when we had the self-governance for the eastern region and the western region, up to 1958, when the northern region joined, and then leading to the 1960 independence. The Nigerian elite have never worked together. So, like I did say, it's not a silver bullet, but the issue remains on we agreeing to work together. So, I think it's a matter of give and take. If we decide that it will work, then it will work. It's not about what is on the book, or it's not about what is on what was proposed in 2014. It's about Nigerian elite class deciding to say, okay, this is our country. We need to make it work. Then it will work.
Yeah, I don't know who we had to blame for this 2014 National Conference report, because you're saying the elites don't want to salvage the country. In that 2014 confab, there were a lot of disagreements, but at the end of the day, they were able to reach decisions based on compromise, give and take here and there. So there was that effort. The government of the day did not put in a lot of effort in the direction of implementation. Or was it a case of that confab coming too late in the life of that administration? And going forward, do you think the current administration will be in a position to implement that report? Because this same administration and the APC had also set up a committee, the Aerofire Committee, on restructuring that came up with certain recommendations. So where do we really deposit the blame? Is it just the elites or the government of the day moving forward?
Well, let's start from first thing first. A national conference does not automatically translate into a constitutional agreement. Let's start by agreeing that whatever the government of President Goodluck organized in 2014 was just a determination of an intention to show this is the way forward. Now, take it forward. it would have been taken to the National Assembly for them to adopt it, adapt it. And for it to work, it means 2/3 of the National Assembly and 2/3 of the states which make up the country. So looking at it, it means that I wouldn't just want to say that there was no political will to implement it. But you might be asking yourself, how come President Goodluck didn't implement it? How come he's recommending that it should be implemented now by President Buhari? Do you think that President Buhari, even if he has enough political will to implement it, how forward can it go? So that was why I said it's about an elite that have decided not to salvage the country. In my work as someone who works in post-conflict reconstruction, in most societies societies that came out of war, what has worked for them, of which donor agencies like the DFID did recommend the issue of political settlement, is a theory or is an argument that says that an elite or class of elite or an elite is about, for a country to pull out of such situation, is about compromise. For instance, if you decide to take this to National Assembly and say, okay, this will work, remember, there is part of it that says which recognizes not only the states, the federal and the state, meaning the local governments will go. Are you now telling me that how possible is it that some states who think that what comes to their state is because of the number of local governments they have, would members of their state National Assembly vote for it? Would the members of their state assembly vote for it? Remember, it affects their state revenue. So there's more to it than just something that we read out and think you will just take it and people will sit down and say, okay, I stamp it, it goes. It's about an elite that decides to say, this country belongs to us. If we think that the oil comes from the South and they've not been having enough, okay, they should have enough. If you think, oh, they not need more money to develop some areas like the Northeast, okay, they should have it. If you think that the agitation from the Southeast is because they think they are marginalized, okay, there should be a development commission in the Southeast. It's about compromise. And those compromises do not come from what you just what you wrote on the papers. It's about people agreeing that this country belongs to them, that they need to give and take. So the political will might be there, but the political will is not about a sitting president. It's about the elite class. And this elite class, like I said, it's not even only about our politicians. It even involves our traditional rulers, who most of these politicians go back to. It involves our religious leaders, who most of our political class go back to. It equally involves our military class. If you look at most countries that develop in Asian Tiger, Malaysia, Indonesia, they didn't develop because they had good democracy. They developed because they had a military class which felt like developing the country. So it involves all our elite class, including our civil service. Do you think our public servants are making this country better? So it's not a silver bullet. There's more to it.
Indeed. Now, we have found ourselves here. I mean, the 2014 Confab report not implemented, the El-Rufai restructuring committee, we don't know what the report has said and if it's to be implemented. So what methods really would you suggest that we adopt to resolve this downward spiral we find our national life in? I mean, there's growing distrust and disunity among the federating units. What methods should we adopt? Is it a constitutional review? Is it a referendum? What would you suggest?
Interestingly, you know, when the ruling party were in the opposition, they clamored for reforms. The then ruling party, which is the PDP, we are not fast in trying to implement one. Now, reverse the situation. APC is the ruling government, or the ruling party. PDP is the opposition. So they are now the ones clamoring for reforms. It's simple. If we decide that we want to do this, we'll start by having an elite class that have agreed that, see, we need to work together. We look at, even if we decide to adopt the Confab report, that is a working document. Mark my word, I said a working document. If we decide to adopt it, we can now decide to say, okay, members of our National Assembly, can you sit and review this? With all sincerity, we need this country to work. It now means that what will happen is it's going to be a constitutional review, which is the most legal route to go. If it becomes a constitutional review, with all stakeholders agreeing that we need to reform those things that hold us back, those things that divide us, those things that will make the country to work, then it becomes the possible way to go. Even if you do a referendum, it's equally a better way to go about it. Like there's a report with my friend brought out yesterday on the secession agitation in the Southeast. We've been told federal government, wherever you have secession issue, it's also a minority. Give it to them, they will go and it will fail. It will stop the secession for a very long period. But if you're holding back on it, it means you're holding it for something. You know, Scotland did it didn't go. Quebec did it didn't go. So most times, referendum might be a way to go. We can put it on ballot and say, okay, do we want this? Do we want this? Do we want this? Nigerians will vote. And it might be, if we decide to do it, then I think these are the two ways if we decide to go. But the most important thing is for our elite class, who incidentally are the driving force behind the Nigerian state, to agree that this country must work. Once we decide to give and take between all the federating regions, then I think we're on the path to Eredado.
Dr. Ndu Nwokolo, stay with us. We'll take a quick break now, and we're back to discuss some more. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. Dr. Ndu Nwokolo, an expert on state and peace building, conflict resolution, natural resource conflict, and post-conflict reconstruction, is still with us from our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for staying with us, Dr. Nwokolo. I was asking you about methods in which we can salvage our present situation, which a lot of people have described as very precarious. You said the option of referendum. Are we ready for that?
Well, it depends on what we mean being ready. You can never be ready for anything when it comes to state building and nation building. Your readiness is about you agreeing that is the way to go. You might be asking yourself, how come Rwanda is becoming a miracle in Africa? They became a miracle because you have a leader who, even though we describe him as a militant Democrat, who felt, I need to put my country forward. I need to do those things that will make my country to progress, which, you know, for instance, if you look at the issue of state of origin and indigenship, is this something we should be debating at this time of our nationhood? The only thing about this whole thing is about, like I did say, is about the people, we the people. And actually, we the people of Nigeria comes from a leadership that you can only understand from the point of either your representative, either your religious leaders, either your traditional leaders, maybe the civil society groups, even the bourgeois class. Because if you have a bourgeois class that is dominating an economy, pushing the economy forward, the state do not joke with them. So if you have 10 bourgeois in Nigeria who actually run the show, they can determine how the states can be run. You know, if you don't, they pull out their resources from the country. If someone like Aliko Dangote decide to pull his investment from Nigeria, don't you think it will shake the country? So he has an opinion. If you have a country that works, it works well for everybody. If you have an economy that works, it works well for everybody. For instance, if you listen to the vice president or his team talk about the National Livestock Transformation Program, you will know that apart from the Ruga thing that came up from where I don't know, if you listen to the program very well, the way it has been designed, and if it's implemented to the letter, within 5-10 years of its implementation, especially the states that have volunteered that, see, we have land to give, which is part of the Land Use Act, which I'm going to bring in. Some states who have opposed it, if they see it that is working very well, we say, okay, I think we have land to give as well, because now it has become a business venture that makes money for people. Just like what they recommended by the Confab report, which says that the land belongs to the state, but the owners of the land will tell you how much their land costs. So you can see how most of these things fit into each other. So for us to go, if we decide that referendum is what we need to do, and we agree that this is the things we need to put on it, okay, for instance, that we decide to say we want to run a regional government, confederalism, throw it open. People should campaign about it. If we decide to say, okay, that we are going to do state policing, and people vote for it, we decide to say that the National Assembly is a part-time job. Nigerians decide to vote for it. What other way can we do? Which other way can we take to salvage this country? Like I said, it's about this leadership that can emanate from every part of the country and every sector of the country to drive this country forward, to drive the Nigerian goal, to drive the Nigerian dream. If we don't have it, then I don't think we have a way to go.
It's like your recommendation of a referendum stems from the fact that our legislators cannot be trusted to do what is right, what is proper to moving this country forward. The National Assembly in this case.
Not exactly. No, not exactly, yes. Not exactly, yes. It's, like I said, there's no silver bullet. It's even neither here nor there. Now, if we decide to, for instance, if you do a referendum and the people do not actually know why they are voting what they are voting, you can know what happened in Brexit, the lies which a lot of British people are coming to understand, that those who voted exit actually lied about it. If we decide, if our leaders decide to lie to our people in order to vote against a particular issue, it will still come back to haunt us. For instance, if we have a referendum and a part of it is that we need state policing, and our leaders from every part of the country, let's say, for instance, someone like Governor El-Rufai is against state policing for reasons he has given. Someone like some governors from the Southwest and the South-South, and even from some from the North, are feeling that multi-layer policing is the right way to go, considering the political and the security situation, the conflict situation we are in now. If we decide to go that, some state governors are going to campaign against it, giving their reasons for not wanting it. Some are going to campaign for it. At the end of the day, if it turns out that 60% of Nigerians say, no, we need state policing, it will be the way to go. Now, if you take the same position and go to the National Assembly, remember, the way our politics is, some state governors have a lot of influence over who their representatives are. They're going to campaign on that and tell their representative to vote against it. So the tendency that we're going to have the opinion of majority of Nigerians may not be there. But if you have an elite class that have sat down, read through it, think through it, and decide to say, this is the way to move Nigeria forward, having opinion, listening to experts, having debates, doing workshops, conferences, taking all available data that they need to pull up, read through it, and that's okay. From all available evidence open to us, available to us, my state have decided that we're going to vote against state policing. On the other side, my state have decided that we're going to vote for state policing. They will be voting based on the fact that they are convinced that this is the way to take Nigeria forward. But if people decide to vote against an opinion or a view because it's more selfish to them, because it favors them only as an entity without considering the generality of the country, then it wouldn't be the way to go. Like I said, until our elite decide to politically settle, politically give away, politically say this is what do I get in return if I give this to you, then it's easier to either use it either way, to either vote, take it to National Assembly, and virtually debate around it, and people give in because they think the other people have a superior opinion, and it's the way to drive the country forward. Or to throw it open, they go back to their people and say, okay, we think state policing is the right way to go. Let's vote for it. It will help us. Then that's the right way to go.
But are we not giving too much credibility to the elite? Everybody seems to be blaming the elite these days. How about the people themselves who make up the majority? And this stems from the just concluded elections. When you look at the number of people who even decided to come and cast their votes in determining who rules them, what do you then say about the willingness of the people and the power that they hold to determine who governs them? But that's on one side. Former President Goodluck Jonathan, is asking President Muhammadu Buhari to implement the 2014 Confab. And barely 24 hours after, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has also called for a national conference, a dialogue, discussion, debate. If President Muhammadu Buhari is thinking of looking at the 2014 Confab, what recommendations from that report would you say is much needed at this time in our national polity? If he does not want to implement the entire report, which would you be suggesting to him to look at?
I think the entire report from the Confab is germane. I think I wouldn't single out one or two, but if I'm asked to talk around, first of all, let's look at the issue of most of the burning issues in the country. Let's look at the issue of Land Use Act, which based on the farmer-headed clashes, which has resulted in millions of people being killed and has raised a lot of questions about the Nigerian state and the stability of the Nigerian state. If we decide to say, let's implement the Land Use Act, where people can now say, okay, this is my ancestral land, based on the rights conferred on the governor, my land is worth this amount of money. If you want it, I'll sell it to you. You pay me as it deems fit. If we decide to implement that, I think it might be a good way to go. Some people might decide, okay, this is what my land worth. If you want it, I'll sell it to you. If you can't pay me, then I can't give it out. That is one. Then the next report, which I think is equally important, based on the situation where we are. If we take the agitation from the Southeast, part of the agitation is, on the issue of state creation, local government, less local government in the Southeast. If you compare the local governments in the Southeast, all the 5 states in the Southeast, if you put all their local governments together, I think the 2 states in the Northwest covers it, which for them is part of what is being agitated as being marginalized. If we decide to implement that, that means we have to look at the issue of local governments and recognize only 2 tiers of government, the state and the federal, and let every state deal with its own local autonomy and how to run its local affairs. It might be a way to go. That could maybe stop the agitation in the Southeast. Now, let's take the issue of...
unfortunately, Dr. Nwokolo, we cannot go any further, but thank you so much for reviewing the burning issue of the National Conference report. Thank you so much for being on the show this morning.